There's some wholesome Midwesternness in me that like comes out whenever like something mildly sexual comes around. I'm like, I'm kind of uncomfortable here.
You like take out a ruler and slap your own wrist.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mother Superior. All right, enough nun jokes. Welcome to the Handsome Hockey Podcast, everybody. This is episode 84 of this good old time rag.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Episode 1984.
Oh, so this
Big
is...
Brother's watching.
This is... And so is my birth year. I am Jake. Hanging out with me today is...
David... What's his name? What's his name? David Reinbacher. Just kidding, it's Evan.
I was waiting for Evan, because we're leading off...
Yeah, that was just too juicy. Sorry.
Yeah, you have to go with it. It's too good. Especially because it wasn't like the 200th pick of the draft. It was number 5.
Yeah, very funny.
Yeah. Imagine if like Barry Sanders came out for the Lions pick and was like, the same thing.
At 5, we were going with Oopsie McIforgot.
Well, come on up to the podium. I brought up the whale just seconds ago because as we were like basically getting ready to record tonight, shit done happened.
The whale was harpooned.
And I'm fucking heartbroken.
Yeah, there are a lot of heartbroken PHF fans, players, writers,
personnel,
right now.
Dreamers, schemers, lovers.
I mean, hopefully the dreamers are doing good because it seems like the schemers may have won out.
Yeah, that's a fair assumption. We're dancing around the fact that tonight Jeff Merrick of Sportsnet reported that Billie Jean King Enterprises and Mark Walter, who owns like part of the Dodgers and Chelsea FC. He's got a lot of money. Those have been the two primary financial drivers of the PWHPA in trying to establish a league there. Apparently they couldn't build a league with the PWHPA, so they decided to buy the one that already existed.
Yeah, they went Daddy Warbucks. They made like the LIV Golf, and they just bought their competitor.
Yeah, in I would say shocking out of nowhere turn of events, the PWHPA has acquired, and we're not saying merged, we're saying acquired the PHF, the Premier Hockey Federation.
All your base are belong to us.
The details that we've gotten so far are relatively few. We've just been kind of following most of our favorite women's hockey Twitter follows to try and piece this together.
As they piece it together.
Yeah, as they piece it together in real time, we will regurgitate it in real time, and then I'll edit this tomorrow, and you'll get it on Friday. But the biggest news, I think, out of all of this is that immediately all PHF contracts have been voided, immediately nixing the income of over 100 women. And these are women who signed these contracts and needed to relocate or needed to get visas to come to this country or Canada. You know, these are women who had finally within their grasp playing professional hockey and making a living wage, and that has been ripped right out of their chests and thrown on the ground like a heart in Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Ian Kennedy was throwing around a figure like 120 people, and that's not inclusive of even like trainers, staff, coaches, all the people that make a hockey league work. It's an incredibly sad day because of that and that alone. But also we're going to lose a team.
Yeah, there's also the initial figure being doled out is that there will be 6 teams in this new league.
Yeah, Rachel Hopmeyer of Spectrum One News Buffalo is reporting that there will be 6 teams with 23 players each. This is kind of like what you see a lot in like corporate mergers and vulture capitalism, some would say. They just bought the competing asset and their infrastructure and their connections and deals and whatnot, and we will see what is made of it.
We do know that, and this has been speculated and I think confirmed by Mike Murphy of the Ice Garden, saying that the Toronto and Montreal franchises are safe, as we would expect.
Yeah, they're the independently owned ones?
No. So this acquisition, they also bought all of the franchises.
Right.
So,
and the franchises which were partially owned by the league, but there were several that were independently owned, I think, including the new Montreal one.
Yeah, Montreal. Toronto was not. Toronto was owned by the
Toronto
Boyntons.
was owned by the league?
They were owned by the Boyntons, who also owned Boston and the Riv.
Right. And so one would think that those are probably candidates to stay, especially because the Pride are like the brand.
Yeah.
I don't know who's on the chopping block then.
It's the Whale.
Yeah, that's what sucks ass.
Yeah. The Whale are in by far the smallest market. They are, despite being a successful team these last couple of years, they're not. They've never won the Isabel Cup. Hell, what happens to the Isabel Cup is a big question as well.
Yeah, did they buy that too?
I would imagine.
Like we bought it, but then oops, we dropped it off the back of a truck accidentally.
Well, somebody already broke.
We're so sorry.
Somebody already broke the handles off of it. What do you care? Like,
yeah, sure.
What's a few dents in the armor?
It's par for the course for a hockey league cup to be dropped and dented at this point.
Absolutely. It's nothing sacred anymore.
Yeah. People don't want to take care of cups anymore.
Yeah. But because of, this single team contraction, we are effectively entering into a Hunger Games scenario where the teams will probably like duke it out in a field of murder and conquest, also known as boardrooms. But as I sit here, I would not be surprised at all if the team that we lose is the Connecticut Whale, and I'm gonna be kind of devastated.
The writing appears to sort of be on the wall, so to speak, or about to be sprayed on the wall in Russian speak. It sucks. It sucks to see it coming like that. Like it's like in the Matrix when Switch dies and she's like, not like this. Not like this.
She doesn't say it with a southern accent. She's like, no, she's like, not like this. It's more like Eastern European.
I thought she was sort of southern.
No.
It's been a while since I've seen that movie, obviously.
Yeah, it's not like these. Shayna Goldman has reported on Twitter, Shayna Goldman of The Athletic, amongst other various publications, has noted that there's some speculation out there, and this has not been proven or published or anything yet, but that the PHF may have actually been on shaky financial ground and was potentially considering bankruptcy. That seems to be kind of like, that seems speculative at best.
Sure. I mean, part of it is that this seems like the move of someone whose back is against the wall. someone being a league of sports teams, but there seems like there must be some sort of outside pressure. And I mean, there's a lot of economic pressure on everybody right now. And so the sand can go out from underneath something like this in many different ways. This may not even be their fault. Maybe like investments didn't turn out, or benefactors dried up. Like there's a lot of economic contraction going around everywhere right now. And so, yeah, one wonders if this was a move more for survival than anything, or if it's similar to the whole like LIV Golf buying PGA and being like courting boardroom members and suddenly all the PGA benefactors are like sporting new boats and stuff. Like, one wonders if it's a combination of both. Who knows?
How did you get that mega yacht? It definitely wasn't bought by Saudi Arabians.
Yeah, right. And
name is, this boat was bought by Saudi Arabians. It's a typo.
This is the Prince Bonesaw boat.
Shayna Goldman's also reporting that PWHPA, in this new agreement, PWHPA players will be given first priority for roster spots over PHF players.
That's really the Hunger Games scenario, is what that move is creating.
Yeah, I mean, you can think of, the top 5% or whatever of maybe 10% of PHF players in the last year are going to get contracts. 10% of those players is only like 15 people.
I wonder if it's going to be more than that. I mean, that's like, player wise, I would think a GM of a new team would kind of kick the tires on anybody useful.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to say that. I'm curious if it's going to be closer to like 50-50. Like how many PHF players do we think can compete at the PWHPA pace of play?
I think a fair amount.
That's my thought too. So I'm interested in seeing like how that all shakes out. Does that make me a willing watcher of the Hunger Games? Yes, but I don't know. There is some precedent for this. I mean, sports leagues have been absorbed and merged before, and kind of taken over hostily like this. Maybe not this swallowing of another league, but I don't know.
Yeah, usually like when the NFC and AFC merged into the NFL,
that was a true merger.
The teams, continued. When the WHL merged with the NHL, it was a merger. I think maybe some teams were contracted, but
that was that was more hostile than that was like. It was
do this or I'll sink your boat.
Right. That was not dissimilar. So what I'm kind of getting at is I think that was maybe one of the closer comps we have in history. And then I think at some point the NFL absorbed a smaller like football league, and that was another comp. Like, okay, we just ate this league. Your assets are now under protection. Your keys have been removed. Please take your elevator out, Mr. Roy. You no longer a part of this company.
Is that another secession?
Yeah, sorry. I mean, it's appropriate here. Is it not?
I don't know. I've never watched the show.
I think that
shows about corporate America are the least interest to me.
It's more than that. It's not. I mean, it's a character study. Corporate America is just the setting.
The last bit of news that has come out since we last checked all of our news sources for this, which was, like 20 minutes ago.
I'm going to scroll right now just to make sure nothing's come up, because like this is live breaking news as best we can present it.
It's like mid-recording doom scrolling presented by The Athletic. We're not really presented by The Athletic. We would love to be presented by The Athletic.
Reportedly, PWHPA players have been sent ballots tonight to ratify a new collective bargaining agreement and league constitution. This is coming from Greg Wyshynski, or Grog Wyshwinski if you're a Puck Soup fan.
also Reagan Carey, who was the commissioner of the PHF, and Jana Hefford, who is like the head of the board or something like that of the PWHPA. We've been told that they will be given roles, probably very high up leadership roles in this new league.
Yeah, I mean, like the promising of roles and the priming of guillotines and swinging of axes. I mean, that's what makes this shit like corporate, dramas like Succession. Like, I want to know what they did with the contracts. Like, did they just like shred them? Do they bring them all back and burn them? Like, what happens to the physical pieces of paper that the PHF is now like just making disappear?
I think one of the other big notes is that there had been some voice in PHF land to put into the writing of these contracts that they could not be voided in such a fashion. And that voice was largely stifled. And now we're seeing the ramifications of that, which is, you all don't have jobs.
Right. And these are players that like have signed leases on houses, bought houses. Like this has huge life-changing ramifications for a lot of players, especially given what the PHF had done recently, offering more salary, longer term, setting up shop in new locations. Like this very much looked like a league on the rise, and now to just sort of be bought out and kind of stripped apart for parts, it's shocking and a little grotesque. One hesitates to think that it was anything but a move for survival, I guess.
Yeah, it just like feels like a bludgeoning in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it feels like some Silicon Valley bullshit. Like, hey, we have this startup league. Let's sell it to Walmart.
Yeah. Ultimately, this feels like a massive step back for women's hockey.
Right. You literally go from what looked like on the horizon a 11-ish, 13-ish teams landscape that you hoped would grow into an AFL, NFL sort of situation with a ton of teams all over. Like that was the generous reading.
Bye.
Hunger Games happened. They nuked it. This is now survival for players. Like it will be like training camps for this league are going to be insane
if they have them, right? Like,
I mean, you have to have them. If you have a huge player pool, you got to see who's got it. You got to see how these like.
Maybe, yeah, that's possible for sure.
If you're new, like revived Mecca Boston Pride, and you have any semblance of your former leadership team, I mean, one
bloodthirstiness,
right? Are you not casting a pretty wide net for players?
It's going to be, I think, if they have tryouts, it's going to be like my 6th grade baseball tryout where it was 5 days of tryouts. And after the first day, they picked all but like 4 players, and they were all players who had played the year before. And it was like, oh, okay, for 2 teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see, I don't know, maybe I'm a little on the hopeful side now that this axe has come down. I understand like the PWHPA thinks that they're better players, but what if they're not? Like Teresa Manizova is going to have a place. The Madison Packer seems very confident that she's going to have a place. Those players, the upper echelon of the formerly PHF cadre, one hopes they'll be treated fairly and with respect and brought into the league as they probably deserve. And maybe we'll see a couple players that, are surprises. But yeah, to hear that the PWHPA is going to prioritize its own players, like there's definitely some hubris going into this.
Yeah, there's definitely a chance that, this is like clear cutting a forest or burning down a forest to let it regrow anew, right? There is a future out there, one of many parallel futures where this is much better for the sport in the long run.
Yeah, every time we get our hedges cut down and our roses trimmed back, I'm like, really? You got to do it this fucking aggressively? Like, one hopes it's sort of that situation.
Yeah, and then like 6 weeks later, you're like, come back and cut these again.
Right, because the PWHPA was always going to have the corporate sponsorship that the PHF was going to chase. And so there's a lot of this story to be written still, and there's a lot of this story to come out yet. So I'm going to try and stay as middle as I can. But yeah, this sucks for the PHF. This sucks because we were all really, really looking forward to this upcoming season and the new financial situation that, maybe now in retrospect was too good to be true. So it's just a big bummer for everyone involved, for these 120 or so players and personnel and the people that they care about and the people that are depending on them, and the people that looked to a professional hockey career that now may not really ever pan out. Thank goodness they're probably more likely to have degrees than your average like NCAA football player.
Yeah, I think this is without a doubt a grim day for the sport. It's a backtracking or a backsliding, and Evan's been talking about it. We've both been talking about it. I think the thing to keep in focus the most here today is at least 120 women lost their jobs today. Mm-hmm. And much like everybody else in this world, they were really counting on those jobs to sustain them and to sustain their families and to continue their dream of being a professional hockey player. And it fucking sucks, really, like that those dreams for many of these women are now tarnished and all for naught.
Yeah, it's a huge bummer.
I think we've spent kind of the off season of the PHF saying that this growth is really inspiring for a lot of these women who are playing NCAA hockey or U Sports hockey, who the PHF or the PWHPA is like turning their nose up to, but they're finding a home and making good money in the PHF, and that's no longer an option. And so that any contracting of teams is a bummer, but when you contract those teams and effectively fire your entire workforce, that's a real just like punch right in the kidneys. And it will take women's hockey a long time, I think, to recover from both the, as you pointed out, hubris of this move, and also the like, who do you trust now, right? Mm-hmm. Like, as a fan, like, say the Connecticut Whale continue to exist, do I care? Like, am I still like gung-ho about the Connecticut Whale if Emma Vlasic's not on the team? Like, or like,
yeah, all these players and storylines we've been following for the past couple of years, just like poof, gone.
Yeah, now the storyline is like, well, fuck you.
Now the storyline is like, who's breaking whose ankles at camp, and like, I don't know. I think when we get to the brass tacks on deciding what players are going to have jobs, like, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah. And one final note, as Melissa Burgess of the Victory Press said on Twitter, I understand that it's very easy to be angry at BJK, Billie Jean King Enterprises, and the Mark Walter Group and the PWHPA right now, but the PHF Board of Governors would have had to agree to this too. And that kind of makes us speculate once more that maybe there was some financial constraints or burdens or hardships that had come to the league. And, it turns out maybe doubling your salary cap twice into a 2-year period is too much. I don't know. But
maybe they made them enough and they can't refuse.
And that's the other thing. Like, what if it was just so much money that the owners were like, oh, yeah, take it. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, it's just like buying a tech company. There are many different flavors of ways this could go. But yeah, one wonders if they saw what the Saudis did with the golf leagues recently and be like, I could do that.
One of our benefactors owns the fucking Dodgers. We're good.
Yeah.
I would also really like to see what the figures were that they paid for this.
Yeah, there's a lot that we don't know right now that we're, I don't know, excited's probably not the right word, but anticipating.
I'm anxious.
It's a brave new world in women's hockey, that's for sure.
I'm sad.
It is sad. One wonders if there will still maybe be another league to, be formed if there's a player pool that exists afterwards that isn't served by this. I mean, one supposes that starting with 6 teams, you would then expand probably pretty quickly, considering that there seemed to be a player pool to support 10 or 12, but who knows? Maybe the financial draw isn't there, and the PHF was kind of always working on borrowed time.
Yeah. Speaking of borrowed time, we're no longer going to get pride jerseys in the NHL.
Or any special warm-up jerseys, for that matter.
But mainly pride jerseys.
It was done to spite the pride jerseys.
Yeah. Gary Bettman and the Board of Governors of the NHL have decided that there will no longer be any special jerseys worn by NHL teams, despite whatever night the NHL teams are having celebrations that this NHL team is having, like,
worn during warm-ups.
Yes, worn during warm-ups, like
ceremonially. Vancouver
always does a big Chinese New Year or Diwali jersey. A lot of teams have military appreciation nights, and all the guys get to wear camo out on the ice for warm-ups.
Yeah, and then a lot of these jerseys are often auctioned off, and the proceeds are given, blah, blah, blah. Like, this has very real financial implications for a whole host of nonprofits, nowhere near anything gay. Like, that, it's just, they cut off the leg because they had a mosquito bite.
Yeah, they were like, who's this going to hurt the most? Well, I mean, armed forces, we do firefighters or EMT first responder nights. We do
cancer, breast cancer awareness,
colon cancer. There are some teams that wear all brown jerseys for colon cancer. But we really got to hurt the gays. And that's really the crux of this decision is Ivan Provorov and his fucking douchebag cronies decided that they were going to be bigots in real time.
And then the teams folded to their various demands a couple times. And, I mean, a slippery slope happened. Like, there's no other way to really see this as, like, we're kowtowing to
the lowest common denominator
and a very small amount of bitchy people.
Yeah, it's like the slippery slope led to, like, institutionalized fascism. Like, it's
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not unlike that.
It's fucking ridiculous. Like, and I say it's fucking ridiculous on 2 levels. One, just this decision alone is fucking ridiculous. Like, you as a league can't put fucking rainbows on your jerseys and not have crybabies and Russian Orthodox like bitches. Like, because that's what you are. You're a fucking weak ass dude who can't even pretend to support a cause. Like, your religion tells you can't. Well, then your religion fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like, and Russian Orthodoxy is bad, but like the Southern Baptists don't even allow women to be preachers, so fuck them too. Like, this is like kowtowing to religious right. And it's kowtowing to a vast minority of a very small minority of hockey players.
Right. And just right-wing agitators that didn't give a shit about hockey in the first place. They just want to fold it into their culture war.
But Ivan Provorov's jersey's sold out on NHL.com.
That's probably what fucking did it.
All 6 of them.
Yeah, right.
All 6 of the jerseys they had in stock. There's a 350-pound man in Texas wearing a size medium Ivan Provorov jersey around just his neck right now because he was like, God damn it, I gotta have me one of those Ivan Provorov's jerseys. That's Spanish, right, Ivan? No. It's like this is a catering to the lowest common denominator, and what it is it's just another in a series, a like very blatant and obvious series of steps away from having any sort of actual substance by the NHL. Like, every time there's a moment for them to shine, Gary Bettman like tightens his belt a couple of notches on his fucking dad jeans and walks out into the street and says, hey, we don't care about minorities. Hey. And gays aren't part of this culture.
Name like 2 things that go together closer than the NHL and fumbling the fucking bag.
Now, I think I had an example last week. I don't have one today because this comes out and it's so fucking embarrassing to the sport, to like people who care about actually everybody in the sport and including everybody in the sport except Mitchell Miller. Like, it's like those people who want to see hockey become a bastion for inclusivity to the extent that it can when you have a like 85% white population of players. Like, the fact that it can't give that very small minority of players who are either on the queer spectrum or are of a different race than white is painful.
And speaking of players that are, I mean, maybe from a different planet, this is such a fucking stupid move. It made Connor McDavid have a feeling.
Connor McDavid had an opinion, and like, that's twice.
Right.
That's twice ever.
He took time out of I just got engaged sex to voice his opinion that it was disappointing to see.
Which is great. Like that's pointed out.
Yeah, he just got engaged to a super rich girl who is, yes, she's blonde.
No.
But
you don't say.
But yeah, he says, it's not my call, but obviously it's disappointing. Certainly I can't speak for every organization. I know in Edmonton, we were one of the first teams to use the Pride tape, which is like, that's a big deal for the hockey players. That's how
putting a rainbow on your stick
for warm-ups.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He says, we strongly feel hockey is for everybody, and that includes the Pride Nights. Like, that, for Connor McDavid, historically speaking, that's putting your foot down.
Yeah, there's just a super tragic element to this. Like, much as we are shocked that Wayne Gretzky is good on television, we are doubly shocked that Connor McMilquetoast, White Waspy McDavid
lives in hermetically sealed like modernist mansion.
He's like a plastic toy from the 70s that a nerd keeps under wraps and underneath a blanket so even the sun can't hurt it. Like
Until you put him on knives on ice, and then he becomes a human highlight reel and lightning in a bottle.
he's Connor McBaby Jesus, and
Right.
there's a reason for it.
You know, Da Vinci had art.
Yeah, and McDavid has knives on his feet.
Yeah.
Who wins that fight?
I'm
Probably
not sure.
Da Vinci.
I'm not sure if
actually.
Da Vinci had personality though.
Yeah, he might have been a tool too.
Da Vinci might have been like, yeah, I got to get 4 lines on the page.
Yeah,
I got to get 4 lines on the page.
We just gotta make this sketch today. And what's your sketch about? It's a sketch.
That's a good Bill Belichick impression, is what you just did. We're on to Cleveland. We're on to Cleveland.
It's a sketch, and it shows the range of motion of a human man's arms, and yeah, some people say I've designed a flying machine, but that's speculative.
So speaking of other generational greats, Steven Stamkos also came to the defense of Pride Nights, Pride jerseys with a very, very... He made a very good point, just saying it was 98 or 99% of the players that wore the jersey and enjoyed wearing it and were proud wearing it, whatever the jersey was, whether it was Pride, the Military Nights, the Cancer Nights. Said the story shouldn't be about the guys that didn't wear it, the 1 or 2 guys. I understand what gets the clicks, and that's what gets the views, but the word distraction gets thrown around. I don't think it had to have been a distraction. It could have been a non-issue while focusing on the good that was coming out of those nights. Like, he must have just like a PR button somewhere in his brain. Like, perfect response. Trigger.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
No,
But
I think
at the same time, I think it's important to recognize the negative that comes from people like Ivan Provorov making this statement, because it reinforces bigotry. Like, oh, famous Russian hockey player says, well, semi-famous Russian hockey player
Russian hockey player
isn't going to, like, he's not Ovechkin, he's a semi-famous Russian hockey player, says it's okay to not wear a Pride jersey. Well, dadgummit, I'm not going to wear a Pride jersey either. Like,
Well,
you're a cashier at a grocery store. Well, I'm not going to wear a Pride Register shirt either.
And one even wonders if, like, Ivan Provorov, like, wanted to make this kind of statement, or he just didn't want to wear the jersey, or maybe he just fucking wanted to skip warm-ups.
He
Maybe
just hates gays.
Right.
Yeah, it's okay. Because of my religion. Yeah, well, your religion sucks.
Yeah.
Come at me, Russian Orthodoxy.
I have a hard time believing that he wanted it to become this big thing.
He had to know.
Yeah, I don't. But he's not the person who put a statement out. Like, he just quietly wanted to not participate, and then the media and right-wing controversy seekers latched onto it, and here we have this molehill made into a mountain.
But that's the point I'm saying, is that it's not a molehill. Like, when people who have a platform decide to use that platform to, not support the people who need support in this culture or in this country, that you are putting yourself in the spotlight by refusing to, like regardless of the reason. Like, maybe he has a fractured toe and they're saving him for the game. People are going to notice that he didn't skate in warm-ups. And if it's a fractured toe, you come out and you say, oh, he actually has a fractured toe. We're trying to keep him off his feet as much as possible, but he still wanted to play in the game, so we didn't have him skate in warm-ups.
And
okay, cool.
Till John Tortorella told everybody, nobody knew.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's true, because that shit was on Twitter before the game even started.
There was like supposition, but he didn't say anything, if I remember correctly.
No, it just kind of came out that was the reason. And then he comes out and he's like, because of my religion. And it's like, bro. Like, Ivan Provorov and, you know, whatever players on these teams that decided to forego their jerseys, whomever they are, like, they made an active choice.
Yeah, I guess my big disappointment is with, like, the teams that kind of gave up really easily.
Oh, yeah, that's even worse.
Because that's where it started to snowball. And I think...
Well, people saw the shit that Ivan Provorov took, and then, like,
right,
somebody on the Minnesota Wild or the New York Rangers. Was it the Wild? I know the Rangers were one. I don't remember if it was the Wild. I'm sorry, Wild, if I lumped you into
Chicago,
this.
No, it was New York. Chicago was one. And reports were each time it was like a couple of players that wanted to sit this out.
Yeah.
A couple of players. And you can't just, like, you know, hockey is so kind of everybody together in the room. We're one. Like, you can't just let those players be outed. Yeah. It needed to be everyone being complicit in bigotry together.
They time and time again show us how fucking pathetic they are. Like, at a certain point, it's like, if it wasn't so harmful, it would be comical. Like, how shitty they are. Like, we're laughing, but, like, not laughing. We're laughing because it stops us from crying.
Laugh, cry. Yeah, it's just like they trip over their own feet.
Yeah. And, you know, we're going to kind of pivot away from this here because, like, good things happened in hockey this week as well, or at least interesting things. I'm definitely not bitter about who got the first pick of the draft still, but... Like,
yeah, who could have predicted that?
We're fucking everyone, because the NHL is so predictable. In the middle of what should be one of their biggest nights, like, they're celebrating the supposed birth of the chosen one, Connor Bedard, coming to save this racist, mascotted, rape-enabling franchise from the mediocrity it deserves.
The second coming of a Connor.
And this comes out just beforehand, and you're just like, oh, well, fuck you. I barely even care about this now. Like, I tuned in because I wanted to see who the Red Wings picked, and they happen to have 2 draft picks this year in the first round. But it's just, it's painful to give a shit about this league because it makes you want to hate it so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then hockey starts back up and I'm like, I can tune out the noise, but I can't because then I come and record our podcast and I remember all the shitty things.
Yeah. One truly is in sort of like an abusive relationship to be a hockey fan.
It would be almost better if the NHL was an unknown entity, like Kyle Richardson.
Which was very funny. Kyle Richardson, who just sort of looks like your average, like, young Nashville bro on the street when he's not done up in a suit, as one does when you're doing professional things in hockey. He got interviewed by some random street interviewer in advance of the draft and did a great job of playing the deadpan part, realizing that this person had no clue that he was the GM of the team with the first overall pick, and he knew a thing or two about hockey. The interviewer says, so how much, on a scale from 1 to 10, do you think you know about hockey? And he goes, oh, I don't know, 4?
Well, he says, like, I never played the game, so I can't really know that much, right? Like, it's just kind of like a middle finger / like, it was, as much as I hate the Chicago hockey team, this was really funny.
Yeah, the only thing that could ruin it is, like, it comes out that it was completely fucking staged or something. Which
would not be a surprise.
No, it would not.
No, it would be a surprise because the NHL can't do good PR or marketing. This I think my favorite part was, okay, one final question. On a yes or no, do you think that the NHL rigged the draft to give the Chicago Blackhawks the first pick? And he just looks straight ahead and he goes, no. He goes, you're pretty confident in that? He goes, yeah, I'm very confident.
It would have been funnier if he said yes.
I was waiting for it. When you sent me that clip, I was like, yes, say it, yes. Oh, but it was still funny. It was a great moment. That may have been the highlight of the draft in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean,
depending on who you root for.
It really went according to chalk, according to how a lot of the predictions went. Chicago did not make an accident at number 1 and did not reportedly ever even try and trade it. And they took Connor McBaby Jesus Bedard. There's not a whole lot to say about it. He's good. He's good at the hockey.
He's probably the best talent on paper to come out of the NHL draft in 8 or 9 years, maybe. Maybe since the McDavid Eichel draft, I think.
Yeah. And
best
it's going to be interesting to see, him as like smaller stature compared to those two dudes, like if he can live up to the hype.
Yeah. And, he is going into a situation where even with all of the trades that they made up into the draft, they currently have one line of NHL talent.
Yeah, they're and like maybe some ghosts to surround him with. But
Jeremy Roenick's like, I'm coming out of retirement.
Yeah,
tell the women to leave the building.
Hey, I'm trying to talk about Anaheim.
Okay.
Anaheim made it interesting and went Leo Carlsson.
Leo Carlsson's a pussy. I'm here to play with Bedard. Okay,
I like it.
Okay, that was my last interruption. I promise.
I mean, that's a good Jeremy Roenick, really.
It really is.
Did you? I recently saw the story like he got shit canned by Jordan in golf, and then Jordan like went out and put up 40 points after he bet against the Bulls.
Yeah.
Great story. Anywho, Anaheim made it interesting and went Leo Carlsson over Michigan man Adam Fantilli. It's hard to know what to make of it other than, I don't know, some people think that Leo Carlsson maybe has better hockey sense, or I don't know, Fantilli's one fight was just too ungentlemanly.
I think Corey Pronman was the first person to kind of say on the morning of the draft that it sounded like Anaheim was leaning Carlsson. There was a lot to be made about kind of splitting hairs between the two.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
In my totally unbiased opinion, would have absolutely taken Fantilli second. And I'm biased for a couple of reasons, both of which have to do with me being a Michigan fan. One, I don't want any Wolverines in Columbus against their will.
Except there are several.
There are so many.
He's joining a veritable Wolverine den on the Columbus Blue Jackets.
You could
now.
put an entire fucking line of Wolverines out.
Exactly.
They
stick together.
Yeah.
Are they a pack animal?
Oh, very much. No, they're very solitary. Like, they come together to mate, and that's it. Otherwise, they're like, ew, get away from me. I have to go carry a goat head across this mountain range.
Yeah, not
in
true.
my mouth.
Not true of University of Michigan graduates.
Yeah,
generally speaking.
Yeah. So
Ted Kaczynski may be notwithstanding.
Ted Kaczynski was a boy genius. We missed that.
Anywho.
The other reason why is because Anaheim has a tendency to let their prospects marinate a little bit more, and Anaheim is way far away from being competitive. Whereas Columbus thinks it's going to be competitive this year and has made a bunch of moves in order to kind of solidify that competitiveness this year. And so I think they're going to put a little bit more pressure on Fantilli to go pro than Anaheim would have.
Yeah.
And so
that difference in dichotomy is interesting.
What's good for Columbus is bad for Michigan hockey. They also drafted Gavin Brindley with like the second or third pick. I think second pick of the second round. Brindley is a player I really like. And so he's small, but he's feisty and he's a really excellent skater. So the other like funny things that kind of came out were both centered around David Reinbacher.
Unintentionally, poor David Reinbacher.
He had a great / rough night.
Yeah.
Carey Price is not the most famous Montreal Canadian of all time, obviously, but he's, of the last like 30 years, he's one of the most famous Montreal Canadiens, and he forgot your name.
He just like turned around and looked at someone, and someone shouts out Reinbacher,
like,
and then he mispronounces it. Reinbacher.
You know that they prepped him on the way up. Like they were like, it's David. Like, why didn't anybody give him a card?
Yeah, that was a bit of a failure on their part because he obviously just has a deer in headlights moment, which is kind of surprising considering the pressure-filled hockey that Carey Price has played over his career.
He's been the face of the Montreal franchise since Saku Koivu left like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then post interview or post draft interviews came out, and they asked David Reinbacher, what's the most difficult question somebody asked him? And his was, it's World War II, and you're a captain of a boat, and some of your sailors are in the water, but you want to go attack this enemy boat, but your sailors will die. What do you do? And he goes, well, I would save my soldiers. And they're like, you don't have a choice.
Yeah. Weirder still because he's Austrian.
Yeah.
and we just needed that to be in World War II, apparently. Very strange fucking question.
Yeah, it could have been any war ever. You've been like, it's the Battle of the Bering Straits. I don't know. Fuck.
You can
whatever.
just show him the fucking trolley problem. Like, point to which way the trolley goes.
Yeah. Kill all the people is the answer.
Right.
Yeah.
That is the inevitable answer in capitalism.
Yeah.
But congratulations to David Reinbacher. And also, congratulations on one of the weirdest draft sequences we've ever had and probably will ever have. I mean, one hopes that this is just a tiny little bump in the road in a long and fruitful career and not something like the champagne not breaking on the Kursk. Submarines, so hot right now.
Well, I mean, once they scrape them off the bottom of the ocean, yeah.
Speaking of the bottom of the ocean,
how many fucking millions of dollars did we spend to bring those dead fucking billionaires' death trap back up to the fucking surface?
Probably more than it took to buy the Ottawa Senators.
Touche. Yeah, actually. Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of the bottom of the ocean, Tyler Peddle was your Mr. Irrelevant, last player selected in the draft by the Columbus Blue Raspberries.
The Blueberry Bulldogs.
Yep. The Columbus blue mouth after you eat a nice frozen treat.
Not Smurf.
Sure.
Yeah. On the opposite end of that spectrum from Tyler Peddle is Connor McDavid, who is the best player in the world. That is inarguable. If you want to tell me somebody else is, I'll just be like, hey, no. Anyway, I'll probably just cackle so much that like the top of my head falls off backwards, and then the bottom, my like mandible, just continues to sit there and cackle. Connor McDavid was the almost unanimous Hart winner in what is one of the best single person seasons we've seen in the last 20 years.
Yeah, he went full on Super Saiyan mode this year. After Austin Matthews did it last year with the goal scoring win, he said, no, I got game. as we all sort of thought he might.
I think we were like a week into the season and we were like, oh, Connor's mad. And turns out
he cranked out a highlight reel this year that set a new standard for Connor McDavid-ness and made many NHL defensemen reconsider their livelihoods.
Yeah, or at least go play in the East where you only have to play them like twice a year.
Some dingus had the gall to give Connor McDavid a 5th place vote after he just outscored everyone by a country mile. I want to congratulate this person on one of the most epic troll jobs of all of hockey Twitter ever, because they mobilized like they were a mercenary army going towards Moscow. And then they were demobilized just as quickly, but like this, I don't know. Do you think this was just like epic idiocy, or was he fucking with people?
It's on purpose. And, you know, the Twitter mob on both sides of the equation for any issue is fucking ridiculous.
It is, but this was something special.
But like, how dare you not put McDavid #1?
You know,
like, shut up. Like, who gives it? He's still won.
I'm going to confuse this, but people are saying that he should be kicked out of the PHWA, Professional Hockey Writers Association, for this. Someone pointed out that he has maybe a history of contrarianism, and so seems like they're probably going to let him stay. Like, he's like routinely like left Austin Matthews off of Hart votes and like put McDavid.
Who'd he vote
in
number
the
one? Like Jordan Stahl or
yeah, right, like fucking Radko Gudas or
Tyler
some
Sagan.
Interested in finding out more about why, you know, if there's some sort of silly rationale for this, but the players said that he's also the best, and so he got the Ted Lindsay.
He should win it every year. He's
Probably
the best player in the world. Like, just give him
Just
the
give-
Lindsay. Just etch his name in it until he retires.
Right. I mean, and they could do the same for Bergeron in the Selke. He won it again
For his like, 6th time.
Yeah. Another one. Allmark, his teammate, gets the Vezina, as he probably should.
This is all chalk. Like everything, there was no surprises in the NHL awards this
And
year.
allegedly at some point, Vegas stopped allowing betting on these awards because it was it was just all going against the house. And so they just gave people their money back and were like, this is not a contest.
Yeah. Like Erik Karlsson won the Norris, Bergeron got the Selke, Kopitar with the Lady Byng, Letang with the Masterson, Beniers with the Calder. Stamkos gets the Messier Award, which goes to baldest man, which is weird because Stamkos has a full head of hair. I don't know why. It should have gone to Mark Giordano.
It goes for best hockey player advertising commercial.
That one is actually pretty good.
It's great. The one with him and
Victor Hedman.
Victor Hedman. Yeah, it's so good. I want to touch on the Calder, because sometimes players can be eligible, and rumor has it that Michael Bunting is the front runner for next year.
We're entering into an era where the Michael Bunting jokes are still funny. He's actually they're creating a new award, which is the Old Horse Award.
The Beaten Horse Award. Yeah, and that'll go on the Home Depot pallet cart behind the scenes with the rest of the NHL awards, which is hilarious because, like, the Stanley Cup gets, like, a dude, a butler who fucking carries it places like it's a pillow princess. And the rest of them get Home Depot, like, we're going to buy some nails.
It has a padded carrying case.
Yeah. It's got a life worth more than your average person on food stamps.
I think its bed is probably more comfortable than like 2/3 of America's beds.
It's got a Sealy Posturepedic.
Jim Montgomery won the Jack Adams for Coach of the Year. Talks about his battle with alcoholism as kind of like a rah-rah, like,
It's a very good speech.
yeah, it was an excellent speech. It was, like,
It was very like from the heart and very easy to kind of get into.
you root for a guy who has overcome something that is, afflicts so many Americans, especially.
And hockey players, especially.
Yeah. And so it any addiction to like a substance.
Hockey players like to collect them.
It turns out they're like Pokemon for
Working on a new one.
yeah. And I think it was a good moment for the awards show for sure.
And then they screwed it up because that's what the NHL knows how to do. And as a part of a skit, immediately after he does this, they hand out free beer and red Solo cups to everybody.
Whoops.
Like, can you just get out of your own way for once, NHL?
The NHL needs to fire its entire marketing department and hire a boatload of SEALs because they would do way better than whatever the NHL is concocting at this point.
And I mean, maybe they didn't know what he was going to say, but you should have known.
Like, ask him.
Yeah.
He's going to win. His team just had the best regular season in the history of hockey. He's going to win. Ask the dude, hey, if you win this Jack Adams Award, what's your speech going to be about? Oh, I'm going to talk about my alcoholism and, how I've overcome it. And they're just like making the throat slashing, like, nix the beer skit.
Move the beer skin. Also,
Like, it's too late.
no, beer skin has already started. No, I can't push the button. Abort.
Sean Avery's like just doling out beers. God. Oh, right.
So, in other good news, Jason McCrimmon of the Motor City Gamblers won the Willie O'Ree Community Hero Award. He is a Detroit native who works on making hockey more accessible, one of the people doing the Lord's work with this game. He has a host of duties. He is the ambassador for the Detroit Red Wings Learn, Play, Score program. One of the things that is part of his program of providing equitable access to hockey. And yeah, this guy is living the tradition of Willie O'Ree, and more power to him.
The other big thing that kind of happens around the draft is people get fucking traded. Sometimes for nothing, but sometimes for other things.
Sometimes for our favorite player of all future considerations.
I feel like we can kind of like walk through these pretty quickly here because there's just like there's a couple of big ones in there, but for the most part, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, of course.
The big one is PLD.
Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Which is like actually how his mother says it. He was part of probably the biggest trade of the offseason thus far.
Some would call it a mega deal.
Sure.
Yeah, no, it's like the closest thing that we've got.
I don't know that Pierre-Luc Dubois on his own could be part of a mega deal.
I don't know if he's worth the players that were traded for him, but he was one of these rare sign-in trades that apparently NHL GMs are starting to figure out.
Yeah, they were just like, wait. You mean we want this guy.
Uh-huh.
He's on another team.
Uh-huh.
We can't give him an 8-year deal. But we want to give him an 8-year deal. Because he's really good.
And he likes 8 years.
Yeah. Who doesn't like 8 years? That's a Catholic priest joke. We're just trashing on religion today, and you know what? I'm here for it. So you can sign him to an 8-year deal, and to the terms that we dictate, and then you give him to us? Mm-hmm. Dadgummit, that's a deal.
Right. And, who knows if he's worth it, but he got 8 years, $8.5 million. In return, Winnipeg gets Alex Laflalo, Gabe Velarde, and some dude named Rasmus Kupari.
He was a first-round pick a couple years ago.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I mean, I assume anyone named Rasmus is on Buffalo. So
very fair. Yeah. That is an actual. It's a fait accompli.
Right. Oh, the Rasmi. And yeah. So they also got a 2024 second rounder.
Yeah. The Kings are loading up. Mm-hmm. The Pacific still sucks, and they've got a chance to be really good. And
I just wonder if
they don't have a goalie.
I just wonder if PLD is worth these two dudes. Like, they were key cogs in what they were doing last year. They're both. I think Gabe Velarde's like 25 and Laflalo is like 29. I don't know. I know Velarde was like, he had a breakout for him.
Yeah, Velarde was also a first-round pick, and there's a lot of speculation that playing higher up the lineup, he might be a lot better.
Yeah, and so...
And he's defensively responsible, which PLD is not. But they also have Dano there.
Yeah, so. Right. So the interesting thing is, if PLD plays up to this contract, like, he's been a bit of a prima donna everywhere that he's been, and like John Tortorella had to try his damnedest to get him to play some defense. So I don't know. I think that's really interesting. And also the question is, what do you do with Byfield then if you have a bunch of centers?
I can't fault anybody for fighting to get out of Columbus.
Sure.
But you have Velarde, you have PLD, you have Andrei Kopitar, you have Byfield, who's the other center there?
Dano.
Yeah, Dano. So
the guy you just named.
Yeah, that the guy who
and so like people are saying like, okay, maybe Byfield becomes a wing or something. I don't know. It's an
he's gonna have to,
right? It's an interesting trade.
Or Kopitar moves to the wing,
right? And who's your first line center now? As Kopitar is aging a little bit,
PLD.
But is PLD like good enough? The task, like, he's got the talent, he's got the frame, but he doesn't have the motor.
And he's
that
a twerp.
Should have seen him become a star player by now.
Yeah. So this is the big one. We'll see how it works out. Hopefully it works out better for Winnipeg, because let's be honest, I like them more than I like the Kings.
Yeah, for sure. I think Winnipeg fleeced them. I think they developed this market and they got everything that you could have possibly asked for Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yeah, especially since it was like either LA or Montreal. And Montreal was like, we're not going to give up anything for him. And they were like, so LA.
We do not care.
Hi.
We do not care about this player. He's toxic.
So let's run through some things real quick here.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Newhook was traded to Montreal for a first and a second, picks 31 and 37 this year.
Some would say Alex Newhook got a new hood. And then Colorado flipped that pick 37 for Ross Colton. Only scores Colton.
I think that is a great trade by Colorado. Fleece the teams who can't afford anything. Isn't that right, Steve Yzerman? Colorado's been super busy this offseason, retooling quite a bit. Ryan Johansson, they traded the rights for Alex Galchenyuk to Nashville, who retained 50%, so $4 million of Ryan Johansson's salary for the next 2 years. This is kind of like not a desperate move, but like a pseudo desperate move for a 2C.
They needed to move him somehow, and I think this works well for them long term.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a proposed trade that was agreed to by both teams. That was Travis Sanheim and Kevin Hayes with 50% retained going to the Blues in exchange for a first rounder and Torrey Krug. However, Torrey Krug was like, nah.
I got a no trade.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere that sucks as bad as Philly.
Played that card.
Which, good for him. You know what got him that that card? Union representation. Mm-hmm. So, God bless the unions.
AFL-CIO.
Yeah.
I got him that card. And he said, nah. And Dikembe Mutombo the shit out of that trade.
Yeah. So eventually Kevin Hayes was traded for a 6th round pick, which is not great, Bob.
I mean, Kevin Hayes has paid a decent amount of money.
With like 50% retained.
Right. That's a useful player at a tasty price for St. Louis, who has sneakily had one of the more entertaining off seasons, I think.
Yeah, he'll slot as a 2C behind Rob Thomas.
So smooth.
Yeah. Not smooth is Carolina and Philly trying to execute a trade for the least smooth player in the NHL, Tony DeAngelo. But and I'm gonna.
By God, is that Gary Bettman's music? It's Gary Bettman from the top rope with the CBA. No deal. My God. Yeah, they took exception to this and won't let this deal happen.
At least for now.
At least for I think they'll allow it in a month.
Yeah. What is it? The end of July?
Because they say that because Tony DeAngelo was traded off of Carolina, Carolina cannot get him back with money retained for 1 calendar year. What a stiff FU. Not really.
Yeah. Sticking in Carolina, Jordan Stahl signed a kind of surprising 4-year extension. He'll be 38 at the end of that extension.
Yeah. He's not going to play that. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's a little ridiculous, probably just to get his AAV down because that team is loading up front on a cup run.
Yeah, and at the same time, the cap is supposed to go up maybe considerably here in the next couple of years. So eventually that 2.9 is just like, okay, whatever. Especially for a guy who got Selke votes. And
yeah, he's
a great defensive centerman.
Has had an awesome resurgence in his career as just a defensive specialist for one of the best defensive teams out there. So yeah, good for him.
Speaking of the Stalls,
yeah, Gord Miller actually got them mixed up on his Selke vote,
which is great.
Gord Miller, TSN. Is that who he works for? I don't know.
Sure.
He's Canadian.
Yeah, he's one of
those people just billowing wildfire smoke towards America. He got him mixed up with Eric Stahl, his brother, which, to be fair, they look nothing alike. So Eric Stahl, a defenseman, got a vote for a Selke award, which is for forwards only, which... Is that that might be a novel thing? First time defenseman voted for forward
for best defenseman, best defensive forward.
Yeah, you're such a good defensive forward. You're a defenseman.
Yeah, maybe it's just like shit talking Jordan Stahl. I don't know.
Yeah, but very funny. Also, rather funny. Taylor Hall reunited once again with the first overall draft pick.
And it feels so good.
It's his lot in life, apparently.
So Taylor Hall had a 16-team no-trade list.
Yeah.
And forgot to put the Chicago hockey team on it.
He probably has not changed it since he was traded to Boston.
In 7 years.
Right, which is when Chicago was still pretending to go for it. And likely, didn't update it. It's like forgetting to update your beneficiaries on your 401k.
And sending it to your ex-wife.
Yeah, exactly. Ex-wife, bank error in your favor.
Do not pass go. So Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno went to Chicago in what was a big cap dump by the Bruins.
Bruins get two sort of flamed out prospects in Alec Regula and Ian Mitchell.
Who at one point Red Wings fans were pissed that we traded away Alec Regula, and we're like, oh, how can we trade him away? And then he did nothing.
Ian Mitchell was at one point a blue chip prospect, and he's just
was he in that Nick Nolte movie? Taylor Hall, of course, is under contract for I think 2 more years at about $6 million per. Nick Foligno is a free agent, and he re-signed for $4 million there in Chicago, which actually I think it's an overpay, but it's like we need to get to the cap floor overpay.
Yeah, and also like he's probably not going to get traded, so that is just bumping up their cap floor once they trade everything for parts again. They also acquired Josh Bailey from the Islanders and a 2nd-round pick just to absorb his salary, and they turned around. They traded our boy future considerations for Josh Bailey's services for mere minutes before he was promptly bought out.
They also traded a 7th-round pick for Corey Perry,
which is very funny because he was like the antichrist to every Chicago fan during the Cup runs when Anaheim was also good. And so that's hilarious. I kind of like Corey Perry, but I don't know. I don't really care about this a whole lot since I don't care about Chicago anymore.
Yeah. Future considerations was also traded again in a cap dump. Edmonton traded Kyler Yamamoto and Klim Kostin to the Red Wings.
The battleship.
The stink of this is that Edmonton came and was like, "Hey, you want to take this contract?" And Detroit was like, "Yeah, give us Kostin too." And they were like, all right."
Kyler Yamamoto is a decent player. He's just not worth what they're paying him.
Yeah, and on a team with no cap problems like the Red Wings, yeah, you absorb that contract for a year, you say goodbye, and you try and re-sign Klim Kostin because he's a bigger dude who plays with some grit and some sandpaper but can also score goals.
That's a good name, Klim Kostin.
Klim Kostin. Honestly, that could be a battleship name too.
Mm-hmm. We already talked about this.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to bounce around. Other big trades. Original misfit Riley Smith was traded to Pittsburgh for a 3rd-round pick in 2024 in a completely unrelated move. Had nothing to do with the Riley Smith trade. Ivan Barbashev re-signed in Vegas, 5 years for $5 million. What this really shows is, once again, Vegas does not give a fuck about you.
Yeah. I mean, at least they kept him around long enough to win a cup and be the first person it was passed to. But yeah, the Borg moves on, and unfortunately they have to make some sort of salary concessions, and Barbashev looked great. He's younger. Riley Smith is a hell of a catch for Pittsburgh for a 3rd-round pick. Like, that really helps Sidney Crosby's cup window they're trying to pry back open
for 1 year. They've got 1 year.
Sure, that's all he needs.
That's all Sidney Crosby needs is 1 year. Other big things. Tyler Toffoli went to New Jersey for Igor Sharangovich and a 3rd. Sharangovich was an RFA. He signed a 2-year deal worth $3.1 million a year.
Good times were had by all here.
Yeah. Mackenzie Blackwood went from San Jose to New Jersey to San Jose.
He just traded what goes in front of the J.
Yeah. Timo Meier, speaking of the Devils.
Speak of the devil.
And he shall appear. Timo Meier signed 8 by 8.8.
Should have been 6 by 6 by 6.
Yeah, but Timo Meier is too expensive for that. the Devils have re-signed their 2 big RFAs that they were trying to keep in the pocket this year with him and Jesper Bratt. Good on them, I guess.
Swiss Army knife David Kampf re-signs with Toronto, 4 years, $2.4 million per. He's kind of a penalty kill specialist and do everything kind of guy. And that's kind of it until tomorrow.
Yeah. There actually something probably happened while we've been recording this, and we're just like, I'm not checking cap friendly.
Yeah, no, not right now. Fuck it.
A couple of interesting notes. We touched on this earlier, but it turns out that Columbus, Ohio actually loves them some Wolverines. After drafting Adam Fantilli and Gavin Brindley this week, this means they now have 5 former Michigan Wolverines on their roster, along with Nick Blankenberg, Kent Johnson, and Zach Werenski. Thankfully, perfect, beautiful baby Dylan Larkin is still in his home state and is like just living the dream as the captain of the Red Wings, and all these poor saps can live in that shithole metropolis in the center of Ohio, which is a shithole state.
It's not like they're all that far away.
Far enough. South till you smell it, east till you step in it. Welcome to Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, I actually think it's a sneak invasion.
We're taking over.
Right? Like the Columbus Blue Jackets are just the Trojan horse that is getting all of these Wolverines just into the belly of the beast.
They actually should have probably been in Toledo, but whatever.
That's
Toledo, the only city in Ohio that likes Michigan.
That's a story for another day, kids. Speaking of stories for another season, the 23-24 year schedule was released.
Or the 23-34 schedule, as is in our in our notes.
Yeah, it's for the year 23-34.
They're just posting this 11 years in advance.
Well, they developed a mathematical formula that they can project what the schedule is like in the year 3000. Ostensibly, the Chicago Blackhawks will be tapped to play the Winter Classic on Mars.
Every year until infinity. The big winner of this schedule is viewers.
You, the fan.
Because they are actually fucking staggering game times.
It's like...
You mean
it
not
shines with a gold light.
You mean not every game's going to be at 7 o'clock again? No way. It's like you want people to watch your product? Oh my God. Yeah. But they are still going to black out every single fucking Kraken game for us in Portland.
And each game's going to start like 25 minutes after it's scheduled.
Yeah.
In wider and super interesting hockey news, Tennessee State is planning to become the first HBCU to add a hockey team. This was widely reported. A official announcement has yet to make its rounds, but it looks like they're planning to become a club team first and then flip to become an NCAA team, at which time they plan to add a women's hockey program, as is likely required under Title IX. And this is a really cool development. They have a longstanding relationship with the Predators, so this has some support by the NHL, and they're following in the footsteps of what Arizona State and other kind of nascent hockey programs have done. So this is a really cool development, and it's cool to see like the NHL's building abilities being used in this way.
Yeah, it's almost like a major corporation could use its cachet for good.
Wow, what a thought.
I don't know what to think about that, because no major corporations use their cachet for good, but this is an amazing story. And I'm really glad that we're reporting on it, because there's no shortness of animus in the hockey arena for this kind of vitriol that is spewed forth towards people of color.
Yeah, we did just see, someone that was kicked off their team for a racial incident get drafted, I believe.
Yeah.
And so it underscores the importance of taking these steps and doing what you can to build up the cadre of black hockey fans, black hockey players, in order to grow your sport and make it, more reflective of the community around you and a more diverse and honest place.
And I don't know what their arena situation is going to be like, but I guarantee you, because all HBCUs have incredible marching bands.
Yeah.
And I guarantee that this is going to be, within years, the best hockey barn in NCAA.
It could be pretty dope.
It's going to be incredible.
And it's notable that Tennessee State, it counts as his alma maters, Olympic gold medalist Wilma Rudolph, Super Bowl champ Ed Too Tall Jones, and little-known Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, who's that?
I never heard of her.
Never, heard of them. I don't even know what gender they are.
I wouldn't want to assume. Anson Carter announced Tuesday that he's the co-chair of the new Player Inclusion Coalition aimed at diversifying hockey. This is something that he's very into, and I think everyone can kind of get behind.
The other coach, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, what were you saying?
The other co-chair is PK Subban. Mm-hmm. One of the awesome things that they did was they recruited a number of women to take part on this council this time. That leadership was lacking the last time this sort of council was brought up and kind of established.
Yeah, unfortunately, that seems to lag behind a lot. There were some people that pointed out that, this announcing of the hockey program was a little bit light on plans for women's hockey. And, that they're kind of being brought along second is a bit of a trust us move, but yeah, we really hope that this pans out for both of these teams. This is very cool, and I just wish them the best.
Yeah, I'm just really glad that we could end this episode on some non-sour grapes, because
because we were just talking about Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, and what a stench-filled pus bag.
That's that English major at work, people.
Right? Yeah. They're, say what you want about the state of Ohio, but the reality of it is it sucks. But really what I'm trying to get at is there was this cornucopia of news on both sides of the awesome, terrible spectrum in the hockey world this week. And I'm glad that we could end on a couple of really amazing notes and kind of just leave you with all that. And when I say leave you with all of that, I mean, that's the end of the show.
That's all, folks.
Yeah. But no, I'm just kidding. It couldn't be an episode of the Handsome Hockey Podcast without me muttering several lines about how thankful we are for our listeners. So I'll just get it out there. We're super thankful for you all. Everybody who listens to us, we are extremely just kind of shocked and surprised that people show up at our door and knock on it and then listen to the podcast, because that's how we keep people hostage on our doorsteps. But it's been a great ride so far, and we're just really grateful that you're sticking around.
We continually keep you all in our thoughts and our prayers.
Yeah.
You can find us on the internet at handsomehockey.com, Handsome Hockey Podcast on Instagram, at Handsome Hockey on Twitter, handsomehockeypod@gmail.com, Handsome Hockey Facebook page, and I swear to God, soon YouTube.
I mean, we have a page on YouTube. It's there.
Yeah, I have all the videos loaded up. I need to finish.
Oh, well, I mean, don't we all?
Soon.
Yeah.
All Swedish, no Finnish.
Yeah. That's Norwegian-ish. Damn, didn't work. Anyways, yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Hopefully your team drafted well, and hopefully your team's not the Chicago hockey team.
Hopefully your team pronounced all its picks correctly.
And as always, stay handsome, everybody.
Restez beau, tout le monde.